Hello friends, my name is Keisha, and I'm a proud member of the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan. I'm also a survivor of human trafficking. My trafficking began in Canada and crossed into the United States. I was stalked, hunted, and ignored by the very systems that were meant to protect me. This is why, with my father, Dale Richardson, we started the CARES Project, an Indigenous survivor-led movement for humanity. We are dedicated to exposing human trafficking, government corruption, and holding institutions accountable. The judicial branch is broken. It has failed to restrain the evils that have come upon this republic. Whether it's family court failures, weaponization of the judiciary, COVID-era harms, or human trafficking, the courts have allowed these issues to continue unchecked for too long. One of the most powerful tools we're using is the petition for redress of grievances. These are lawful constitutional actions rooted in the founding principles of this country. On May 19, 2026, a formal petition for redress of grievances was submitted to the United States Congress. This petition is demanding that Congress and the President use the powers under Article 4, Section 4 to preserve this Republican form of government by restraining these abuses pending congressional investigation. Through the CARES Project Action Plan, we are mobilizing people across the United States to strengthen this effort. This petition has been created as a template. If you or someone you love have been hurt by these same systemic failures in the courts or by government institutions, your evidence matters. When you come forward, please bring your evidence along with a copy of the petition for redress of grievances. This helps connect your story to this growing constitutional record being placed before Congress. We are asking you to stand with us. Join the CARES Project Action Plan and help us build a precedent that demands accountability and protects the God-given rights of American families. Our united voices will compel Congress to uphold the Constitution and safeguard our liberties. United we stand, one nation under God. I will close with my favorite quote. The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right, though the heavens may fall. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CARES Project podcast. Today we have with us Jenna Moore, who is a mother that is going through a very difficult situation and has had some unwarranted state interference with her children. It started in Pennsylvania. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
You want to just introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Hi, well, my name's Jenna Moore. I'm 38 years old. I actually live in Lisbon, Ohio now, originally from Beaver County. Even though we've lived in the Ohio state for 5 years, me and my children, I still have a PA court order that we cannot get out of PA into Ohio. Actually, for the last 3 years, me and my children have been in lingo, as you want to call it. I go to the Ohio cops. Ohio tells me I have to go to PA because PA is my court order. PA tells me they release jurisdiction. They can't help me. So right now, that's been my major fight that's been going on. I have 2 wonderful, beautiful little boys now are at the age of 7 and 9. I'm not sure what else.
Okay. Do you
Without
want to
going into like detail.
Well, yeah, I think we kind of should start kind of a little bit back from the beginning of what kind of got this state interference coming in. How did the state get involved with your kids?
Well, back in 2019, my ex actually burnt our house down. I have recordings of him omitting it, text messages, took it to his local police department, who actually is a good friend of his, the chief of police. Later on, I found out he did not do any of his evidence. I actually have police reports that he wouldn't hand anything over to the state police. I actually contacted the attorney general's office. Dave, who's actually head of the insurance fraud, was actually out at my house. Who actually even stated to me that the police department did not do their jobs. Looking into him further, we found out a lot more about my ex and his family, which even scares me more.
Let's, before you go into that, like you said, he burnt your house down.
100%, yes.
So-
and actually on the news, wait, can I pull this up real quick?
Yeah.
I printed it out, and I just want to kind of show it. I don't know if you can see it. Which way I'm going. But it actually states that it destroyed a barn fire in Beaver County. Now, I have contacted the news. I've contacted the fire department. I've contacted everybody that I could contact, that it was not just a house or a barn fire. It was a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath home. My oldest son was a year and a half old when this happened. I was 6 months pregnant with my youngest son. I lost completely everything. I have no hospital stuff, nothing of my oldest child. And it seems like nobody even cares. I contacted the news that reported this, stating, this is all false documentation.
So,
this is a home.
So, what was the reason why he burnt the house down? Like, I mean,
For years, we were going through a lot of, I want to say, domestic violence. He would take my things, destroy my things, and it wasn't just him. Actually, his sister was majorly involved. His 2 older kids and their mother was involved. And I have tons and tons of proof. Recordings, videos, text messages of them stealing my kids' stuff, repeatedly doing everything. And anytime I'd say anything to their dad, he would lash out at me, destroyed my truck, flattened my tires, beat me up. He actually, what drew the line was he threw my mother down. He brought a constable to my house. He threw my mother down, took off running in the woods. There was warrants out for him. I want to believe he paid about $40,000.
So he brought a police officer to your house and then threw your mother down on the ground?
Yeah.
So why did the police stand there and let this happen?
That's what I would love to know, and nobody could give me answers.
What is his connection to the police?
No one can give me answers. I've been told he's got high connections, and even inside the courthouse. I do know that his father used to be a cop.
What is he?
I found that out actually later on.
What does he do?
He is self-employed. He has a farm business. To me,
doing what?
Yes. But he lives like a multi-millionaire, yet he sells hay, feed, sawdust, that kind of thing, which, there's multiple other farms out here that does the same thing, and they don't have what he has. And if you know him, you just got to mention his name around town and people will say how he is.
What do you mean? What do you mean they say how he is?
Very violent. He's known to beat up his other exes, steal their belongings, take their things, forging names.
Were you married to him?
No, I was not. Thank God. I never took the ring that he did offer me.
So you were together with him for how long?
About 5 years.
And so when you were together with him for 5 years, when did he start becoming violent or showing signs of aggression?
About when my oldest son was about a year and a half old, when it started getting real violent, when his family would still, it would be sad, like loveys off of my child that he slept with every night. We'd come back home and I'd find like my drawers and stuff gone through, and my grandma's wedding ring was stolen. My mom's wedding dress was stolen. Those are things that are unreplaceable that I'll never be able to get back or hand down to any of my children.
Well, what started it? Like, what was the first thing like that he did that you're like, okay, this is nuts? Like this.
Actually back out in 2000, I want to believe it was 2018, 17. I was kind of like, I can't take no more. I'm going back to my mom's house with the children. He had called and texted me and said he was in a tractor and it was on fire and he wasn't getting out of it until I came back to him. I mean, this is just the crazy stuff that he would do. I actually had a barn in a separate place where I had horses. And usually at night I'd go there to feed them, but he would show up there at night, broke all the light bulbs out so I couldn't see him. I ended up putting trail cameras in it. And you could actually see him walk through the barn and go through the barn. And then I would show up and feed. So that means he's sitting up on the hillside watching me. And then I would do all my feeding and come back through and leave, and he'd come back through. And I mean, he'd be standing in my car barn just crying
So
like a total lunatic.
So when you wanted to leave, he said that he was going to lock himself inside and light it on fire.
Kill himself. Yep. He's told me before that he would kill me. Actually, one evening that he actually destroyed my truck, ripped my handle off my door. My mirror's completely smashed. There was dents all down the side of it. He was able to get in and get me out and threw me on the ground, choking me, stating that, he just wanted to kill me. I guess I'm assuming this is because, he lived multiple lives. I found out that his older kid's son, or his older two sons, their mother, they never stop seeing each other. It's like a secret relationship. He takes care of her, does he wants to have two families. Well, I mean, when you're hurting your other children, that's not okay.
What do you mean hurting the children? What did he do?
He would sneak in, only take two of them to do stuff and pay for things and sneak and lie about it. Well, what about your other three kids? It's not fair that the mothers of the other three are the only ones doing anything for those children.
So he's got three mothers for three.
Oh yes, he's got three. Yeah, he's got a mother, which he's actually still with her. Who my kids, she's sleeping in bed with my children right now. My kids are coming home telling me this. And that's the mother of the two older boys, and then he has a mother to a daughter.
Okay, and so so it started to get out of control when you said your oldest son was about a year and a half. How long?
Correct. Yes.
Was it before you guys just said, okay, enough's enough? I'm out.
Like I said, it was in 2000. I think it was 2020 when he threw my mom down. Okay. And that was kind of the end of the story. And I actually told the cops that day, I said, when they were there doing the reports, I said, actually in Chippewa, PA, I had my horses at the barn up there, my kids' horses. And I said, I want somebody to go up there because, this is a repeatedly what he does. I know what he does. And he has stole my horses multiple times in the past, but he gives them back, as long as I take them back. That's how it happened. There's 100 documents proving, text messages, recordings of him doing this. But that night that he threw my mom down, I stated, I want officers to go up to my barn in Chippewa. I said, I know what's happening because they obviously couldn't find him running in the woods. And at that time he did. When we went up there to check on the horses, he had stole two of my horses, which I was able to get one of them back. I still was not able to get the second one back. And I mean, that's another long story, which was promised to my youngest child, which I have a recording of it. Text messages, all this kind of stuff. They have put my one child Colton through a lot of stuff with this horse, to where he has actually now gave the horse to his daughter. She has changed the name, is running the horse. And they are making fun and teasing my child about this. I mean, this would be like, and I understand most people don't understand about the bigger livestock, but could you imagine if you had a dog and that's what happens? I mean, it's almost, it's a companionship that, you feed it every day, you take care of it every day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people are just doing things to cause more problems, right? And I mean,
100%.
It's
100%.
I mean, a lot of the cases, what will end up happening is that you'll see a lot of agitation done towards other people, so that one side will just do something like snap, basically, and then they'll be like, "Oh, you see, they're terrible. Don't let them see the kid." This happens all the time, right? So.
Right.
Yeah, this is nuts. So after that incident in 2020, you left. Where did you go? after you said
Actually, I moved into my mom's house.
okay. And then so you moved in with your mom's house, and then what? You had the kids with you?
Yes, my kids were with me.
Oh,
And there was a time that I had the protection order because after he threw my mom down, it was a Friday. That next Monday, we went into Beaver County Courthouse to get a protection order.
mm-hmm.
When I walked in there, and Beaver County is kind of weird because where you have the criminals waiting, I don't want to call them criminals, but you have to walk through that area to get to the protective witness area. Well, it was so full that day, they had me sitting out with them while I was filling out paperwork for this protection order. And at that time, the state trooper that was on my case for throwing my mom down, he approached us and said, um, Bill Boralski, which is a DA, one of the head DAs in Beaver County, was caught taking pictures of me and my children. And it was confirmed that he did send it to my ex, letting him know that we were there in Beaver County getting a protection order. Again, at that time, the courthouse went crazy.
Whoa,
They didn't know what to do.
hold on a second. The state trooper told you that the DA took pictures
Yes,
of
he
you
caught him.
and your
Yep.
family, your children,
Yep.
and sent it to your ex.
Yes, it was confirmed that, yes, he sent it to his ex.
Did the state trooper arrest him?
No. Nope. And then when I went in for my PFA, the judge knew about it. He was not happy about it, but again, nothing came about it.
But this was mentioned.
I did my.
This was mentioned on the record.
Yep. Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, that's a crime. That you can't do that.
Yep.
Because if you're in there getting a protective order from the courthouse for your ex, and then he takes your pictures and tells him that you were there, that's a problem. That's a huge problem.
And for a protection order, that's what shook me up the most.
Well, yes,
I'm there to get protection.
It tells you that there's people that are inside of the government that are aware of it. What's his connection to the district attorney?
Well, at that time they stated that he was not his attorney. He was a long-term family friend of his family. And I'm like, okay, well then, there was actually civil cases of him stealing the horses. My ex actually crashed a truck we had together, a brand new F-350, crashed it right into a tree. And then he forged my name on the back of the check and cashed it for $47,000, which Beaver County dismissed all that.
So the lawyer there that took what is he doing? Where's he working? What was he doing?
As far as I know, he had his own firm, and I know when I looked it up, he was one of the top 10 paid persons in Beaver County.
Okay, so he has a private.
But I was stated inside courts that, as a lawyer, he did not do wrong because he was a family friend considered wise. Well, then when it came to the criminal charges that were filed against him, well, then that ended up being his attorney. So like they double stated everything.
So how he said he's a family friend of this guy, of your ex? What's your ex's name if you don't mind me saying?
John Vidovich.
John Vidovich. Okay. So this guy is friends with John, takes pictures of you, sends it over. And then when it comes down to criminal charges, then he is representing him. That's a conflict of interest. He shouldn't have been representing.
Yes, and everything was pretty much thrown out.
The case was thrown out?
When it came to the two horses, when it came to he actually stole my horse trailer, and when it came to him
and these
forging my name on a check.
These were criminal charges.
Yep.
Do you have the police reports from that?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay. I'd like to see them. This and then so who was the judge involved when they got thrown out, and why did they throw them out?
I believe it was Judge Ross or There's one that starts with an M, which I can get those over to you. Um, uh,
But
they threw them out pretty much stating we had to take everything civil.
he forged.
Nothing was criminal.
Wait. He forged your name on a check. He forged your name on a check.
Yes.
How? Wait a second. How is that not criminal?
And that was actually stated because he owned a business and because I actually was not working at the time. I quit working to be a stay-at-home mother. So they took it as everything was all his, even though my name was on it.
But he forged your name on a check.
Yes.
Yes.
I actually walked outside the courthouse. So it was like, does anybody want my checkbook? Because obviously it's clear you could forge somebody's name in Beaver County and they don't care.
If I took,
and I'm not talking, it was $1,000, $2,000. It was $47,000.
If we don't really use checks anymore, but if my daughter had a checkbook and I took her checkbook and I took it to somewhere and forged her name to buy something, I'm going to go to jail.
100%.
That is a crime.
And anytime I try to say anything into Beaver County, I mean, I couldn't even tell you how many people in the DA's office screaming in my face, telling me that I better listen to them if I want their help. Like, I mean, they've pushed me in corners. Actually, through our first custody trial, at the end of our custody trial, now I ended up with COVID. Now, my mom is a registered nurse. I was 10 days clear, okay, from having the COVID. So I'm okay to step in this courthouse, which again, this courthouse did not quarantine like they were supposed to. Nobody wore masks. Nobody did anything that they were supposed to. But on the last day of trial, when my ex was on the stand, and his name was Judge Ross, came out of the court or came out of the back room, screaming at me in my face.
What year was this?
Telling me how dare I walk into that courthouse and expose everybody to COVID. Wouldn't even let me state that I was 10 days clear.
What year was this?
This was 2021.
Okay.
20.
You see, my background's mechanical engineering. I'm a technologist, and I actually whistle blew the pandemic infection controls. And I don't care what anybody said; they did stuff wrong. So if they're going to complain about anything, they need to complain to the government because, I mean, I proposed engineering controls that would have prevented people from locking down, save people money, and let their businesses open, and reduce the risk of airborne transmission because they knew it was transmitted by aerosols and a bunch of other stuff is done. So when they come in and sit down and say this, I don't care what they're saying. They're lying. And masking, who cares, right? Doesn't matter. So at the end of the day, any one of those people could have been carrying something. There could have been a bunch of other things that are way worse that they don't even care about. So yeah.
Right.
And
it's funny because the week prior to that, they continued my forgery case. And I have to go back and look, but I want to say it was 7 times that it was continued. They kept continuing it through my custody trial. And that was their excuse. The last time was this Bill Bobrowski had COVID the week prior to that. But the next day he was in the courthouse.
Yeah.
Okay.
They cut off people's access to the courts and they continued the forgery case while your custody case. So the criminal case, they kept continuing while your custody case was going.
Yes. I mean, which, you know why? I mean, everybody, that's common sense.
Oh,
but the last day of my trial, when my ex was on the stand, and after that judge, instead of him continuing the hearing or doing anything like that, they threw me in a room by myself and I got to watch everything on a TV. I couldn't talk to my attorney. I couldn't do nothing.
In the custody
So
hearing.
as he's sitting, yes, this was during the custody hearing, the last day of my trial. They threw me in a room by myself so I could watch it all on TV. I had no respondents. The judge wrote or set off the 16 factors. My ex got 1 out of 16, and that's because he has other children. Then he actually stated that actually gave my ex more days at the end of the time. So, we ended up appealing that. appealing that decision.
Yeah, this kind of stuff needs to stop. Like, I mean, what I'm looking at here is it's absolutely disgusting. They're
Oh,
showing a
it's
lot of
horrendous.
bias towards certain parties, and then not allowing other parties to speak. And there's a due process issue right off the bat. I can sit down and see it, and even in the criminal aspect, there was you didn't get protection for rights and so forth. And there's actually a number of things that can be done for this. Um, I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes down to children, and this is what people don't understand. Like, people talk about the rights of the parents, which is fine, which there's nothing wrong with that. But there's never a discussion on the rights of the child, right? And people don't understand.
Nobody thinks of the child.
No, and people don't understand how liberty for children works. Now, liberty for children works like this: you have a child has a right to have the fullest development possible from their biological parents. That's how it starts off. Now, how you remove access to a parent depends on what that parent is doing that is going to be detrimental to the development of the child. This is how you have to think about it. So, when you're watching the way that they're dealing with a lot of custody issues, the parent has to be a detriment to the child, that it's going to be worse off for the child for the development to keep that parent in their lives. So this is where you're looking at when they're doing criminal offenses. This is the threshold for this is high. The way that they do it is absolutely wrong, because now when you look at the child, I have to look at what's the consequence to this child down the road for not having proper development. So now it's not, you can't, this arbitrariness that they do comes out of the way. And in order to properly assess this, you have to hear from both parents. Due process is far more critical to children than it is to anybody else. The reason being is that if you're an adult and you commit a crime and you go to jail for 10 years, you're not going to have the same harm to them as you will with a child who's being separated from the parent that's going to care for them properly for 10 years or 18 years. Because you know what you're going to do to that child? You're going to destroy them internally, that they're not going to be aware of, so that downstream in life, they're not going to figure out the full extent of the damage till they're destroying their lives, going in and out of prison or whatever else, like having the worst life because of something that they could have had earlier. This is why they should not be doing what they're doing in the way they're dealing with children. They need to have a lot stronger protections to ensure that the right decisions are made.
Well, 100%, because like, again, going back to his daughter, okay, going through my first custody trial. I mean, the only witness my ex had on the stand was Amy, which was his boy's mother, which again, she got on that stand and lied is so bad, which she'll do anything for John. But they lied about his daughter. And again, this is Beaver County Courthouse. I mean, we're in a small community, which is another reason the senior judge was assigned to my case. And he straight up said, he's a senior judge and he's assigned to this case because there's been conflict throughout every other judge in his courthouse, which again is a false statement, because the only other judge I've ever been in front of was Judge Ross. Okay. My ex has been in front of these other judges because of his other children. And not only that, back in 2018, he was found guilty for abusing his daughter through CYS, lost every overnight with it.
What kind of abuse?
Now, they wouldn't let me bring any of that stuff up in
Wait,
court. They told me it's a total difference.
What kind of abuse?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What kind of abuse?
Burn on her forehead. Mm-hmm.
So,
And Beaver County told me that it's a complete different case, that my children have nothing to do with that case.
that's actually kind of funny, because with my with with my situation with my ex, I got custody of my oldest daughter after she had unwarranted state interference by Child and Family Services. I lost all parental rights. I fought them for 3.5 years. I got full custody from them. They rescinded I have the court orders and everything. One of the only people, like, there was only one or two people in the province of Manitoba that got their kids back from Child and Family Services up at that point. and that was in 2001. And the other one was a woman, right? As a man, this was like unheard of. And they would not let me bring, anytime I brought that up in the court or documents of that, they threw it away. They threw it out, they pulled it off the record
Yep.
and threw it off, because it was like, how can you sit down and say that I'm an incompetent parent where I raised a whole child as a single parent and she's not
Hmm.
screwed up? She's pretty good. So then I'm somehow unable to deal with children. Like, I mean,
Yep.
just come on. Like, I mean, they wouldn't let me speak for myself. They never actually let me
Listen, that's
directly
actually
question her.
that's what they're throwing at me right now is, because I have an ADA advocate and, diagnosed with PSTD, that I'm not mentally capable of taking care of my children.
But wait a second, let's look at
Yeah.
this. How did you get the PTSD? Because the guy was trying he was trying to destroy,
Yep.
trying to kill you, and just he's abusing you.
Yep.
So whose fault
Yep.
is that?
Not just me, he abused my mother. He's abused my children. 3 years ago, he choked my youngest child, and you see why I didn't even care.
Well, they don't. But the whole point of this is, like, I was dealing with a mother in Texas, and she got beaten by her ex, and she got beaten black and blue,
Mm.
and then he raped her. She was bruised all over, and she was so traumatized. This is one of the things I wish I never had to see, but I had to help her put together her evidence package because she couldn't deal with it. I just wanted to go out and do very bad things to this man. So we're sitting in the court hearing, and it's on Zoom, and I'm or WebEx, and so she's traumatized. And they're trying to put her in a mental hospital and saying all of this kind of stuff. And I said, listen, and in the middle of the court, I just opened the mic and started to talk. And I said, the only reason why she's going to have any mental health issues is because the court is failing to deal with this man having an escalating pattern of violence where he beats her, then he
Yes.
beats her black and blue, and then he rapes her, and she's black and blue. What's next? He's going to kill him. He's going to kill her. He's like, you preventing her from defending herself and putting her in a situation where you're increasing her duress and giving him more access to abuse her and less access to defend himself, and won't restrain him. So if anybody's get responsible for her mental health issues, it's this court. And then they all got
And I
quiet.
see that happening a lot. A
Yeah,
lot. That's
and
what they do.
they got quiet, and they all scrambled, and they're like, "Who is this?" And I told them, I said, "Somebody who's not going to stand here and watch you break the law." And then they didn't put her in the mental institution that day. But then later on, when I was unable to go there, they got her on contempt, and she spent 90 days in jail for contempt because they wanted to keep punishing her.
That's funny because Francesca Amato, she is my AD advocate through it all. And when I actually hired her, going through court the second time going through it all, I actually had a temporary PFA. And I went in, they found me in contempt. They wouldn't hand me a full PFA. And CYS and them were all involved, and this was on my ex's oldest son. Actually picked my oldest son up and shook him so hard and left fingerprints down his arm. Okay, there was a forensic and medical interview done, but before that, the forensic and medical interview were even done. They had already filed contempt charges on me for withholding my kids, even though I had the temporary PFA. So we go to court. They deny my PFA. Instead, they found me in contempt. I believe it was almost $6,000 they made me pay in attorney fees in my first contempt.
Yes.
And then the second contempt came about when, again, there was more abuse happening. So again, withheld my kids, trying to get PFAs. This actually happened in Ohio. But I went to Ohio court because that's where everybody says you go where the incident happens. The Ohio said I could give you a temporary one for 7 days. They will not give you a full one because you have a PA court order. So I go to PA to get a PFA, and they tell me I waited too long to come there to get it. So that's when, the judges threatened me that the next time he finds me in contempt, and I do have these transcripts. He's the senior judge and nobody will ever touch him. These are all in the transcripts.
And a PFA, just for people who don't know, what is that?
Protection from abuse.
Okay. Just
Yep.
yeah, because I know everybody uses a little different terminology wherever they are.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. A protection from abuse order.
Okay.
Um,
So yeah,
oh,
you
I'm
know what?
sorry.
The funny thing is that you're in a situation where you're being abused and you're having difficulty getting a protection order. I, on the other
Yep.
hand, on my on the interim order that was made on the first appearance that settled my entire divorce, there's an indefinite no contact order there. I've never even yelled. No one's ever seen me yell at my wife in public. I'm not that kind of guy, and I'm not the kind of guy to put their hands on anybody either. A woman, no, I'll leave. If there's a point that there's argument, I'll just go. Because if you're yelling at each other, you're not communicating. It's only going to break down further and somebody's going to snap. So I'd rather not do it. My ex-wife, she was the one who would get angry and she would punch me when she's mad, or she'd throw stuff and break stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that person. I'm like, for what? Like, everybody who knows me, this is not the way it is. My
Yes.
daughter's oldest mom, she attacked me and walked down 3 flights of stairs while she was on my back, punching me in the back of the head. Because I'm like, I'm not putting my hands on her, because the moment I do this, I'll never see my daughter again. And my friends that were there, they were like foaming at the mouth. They were like, I'm like, why? What's the point? So I could lose my kid, never see her again? I'm not going to do that. So you get
Right.
this, she gets this thing. An indefinite no contact order is unconstitutional on its face. It is. You can't, but yet it's granted, and yet it's still there. And because I've talked on social media, she's gone and tried to talk to the police to get me arrested. I know this because I have the freedom of information request on the police reports that says this, right? But
Yep.
then but then I have supervised visits, but I can't get a hold of her. She blocked me on anything, and if I do, I'll get arrested. Hmm.
I think that's another thing when it comes to police reports, CYS reports, or, CPS. They do call them two different things.
Yes.
There is so much hearsay put into these reports
Yes.
instead of evidence.
Yes.
Because I can prove, they attacked me to where I know one of the reports state that she had talked to the head state trooper and he stated that, oh, he's had a lot of dealings with me. But again, yeah, you might have had a lot of dealings with me, but I'm not the one that stole the horses. I'm not the one that threw my mom down. I'm not the one that stole my horse trailer. Like,
But
let's recorrect this. But
but
they made the reports all out that I was the most terrible person. Like I was the abuser.
but you're having somebody that has a history of violence, that has a history of
Yep.
that, like, criminal activity towards the women he's with, abuse towards his children, that he can't
Yes.
see the child. He's got the access cut off because he burnt the daughter, but
Yep.
you can't get a protection order when he abused your mother right in front of a police officer.
Yep.
And this is what I see all of the time. And I've watched this happen from when I was young. The women that were getting their faces beaten in by men, they couldn't get the help that they needed. But a girl would get pissed off. The guy was in there. She'd pick up the phone and say, he beat me. He would get arrested and go to jail. But the guys that are
Mm-hmm.
like, they might arrest the odd guy that's really doing bad. But a lot of the times, what I saw was some girl got pissed off, picked up the phone, doesn't have a mark on her face, gets the guy arrested, or she's the initiator and instigator, and one day he snaps and he slaps her, and he gets arrested. But the ones that
Yeah.
are getting destroyed are not getting the help.
Oh,
Make this
100%.
make
Because I could
sense.
tell you, like, going back to the fire incident and everything else, like, I was interrogated. Me and my mom were in a room and interrogated through Pennsylvania State Police. They never contacted him for an interview. It was all dropped. They never, well, again, that goes back to the Ohioville State Police or the Ohioville Police Chief. Again, there are reports stating he would not hand anything over to the state police.
So, what kind of, okay, I got to ask a question, because what is your ex's connection to these people? Because
I
without
do
a
know.
connection, they're not going to fall on his sword for him. So there's got to be a reason for this.
He had told me prior that the chief of police is one of his good friends, which again, that's common sense because of the decisions that this police chief is making. Um,
It's more than that. it's more than that.
I believe there is a lot more to it. Like, again, I said, I found out later on that his dad used to be a police officer, which from my understanding, he's deceased. I don't know if I believe it 100%. I don't know. I don't know how that they're.
I have friends that are police officers, friends that I grew up with, friends that I know well. There are certain things like, oh, if I got a speeding ticket and it was like they did something grimy, sure, I could see something that happened. Committing a crime? No.
Oh, that's what I get.
Because I wouldn't even go to any of my friends that I knew to even ask them. Because if I did something, too bad. I shouldn't have did it in the first place. And if I get the consequence of it, then I just have to live with it. Right? Like nobody wants to deal with this, but I wouldn't go and try to put them in that position. And even still, even if I was dumb enough to do that, they're going to be like, why would I put myself in that position for you? Like, I mean, because at the end of the day, there's consequences that they can get. And even though you might sit down and think that you have everything together, if the wrong thing gets out, you're still going to get punished. If it's too bad, they're going to say no. So a lot of the times there is some other connection. Just being a friend is not going to let you get away with.
Well, and that's where I feel there's more to it. Yeah. And I felt when there's more to it, when I had the Dave, who was head of the insurance fraud at the Attorney General's office, came to our Ohio property. And he just in Pennsylvania had reports done of my ex insurance fraud. He said the list is huge. He goes, not only that, obviously they looked into his family. He said his mother had 10 times more than him. When he left our house, he was going back to do a nationwide search to know whether it was, so it's not all just in Pennsylvania. And I'm thinking, I looked at him, I'm saying, so you're talking, this is major insurance fraud, what him and his family are doing. And he said, absolutely. But again, who's there to protect my kids?
They're involved in
and nobody fraud? Can ever answer me that question.
They're involved in insurance fraud, him and his family.
Yep. This is straight from the Attorney General's office.
The Attorney General's office told you that him and his family are involved in insurance fraud.
Yep.
So why are they not investigating?
And he actually, and I mean, my mom's a witness out here and saw it, said that fire is his trademark.
So they burn things down to collect the insurance.
Yep. Yep. But I mean, when he burnt the house and all the equipment and stuff, I mean, he collected almost $1 million. And the other part is, I didn't find out till after the fact, they collected money on contents of his parents' home, which is on the same property. So like when Dave came down from the Attorney General's office, he's telling me that the list that they wrote out was name brand bras and shirts. And I'm like, wait a minute, I never did that list. It's my stuff that burnt. And he said that they collected money off his mother's homeowner's insurance. Right there's a major fraud. Her house is still standing. No, but their house is still standing.
So why didn't the Attorney General prosecute them?
That's what I would love to know. I actually had his towards the end of it, because he said he'd keep an eye on the forgery case when he forged my name. And I had his boss actually call me and tell me not to call them anymore.
Who was the Attorney General that you're dealing with?
Dave, I want to say his last name is Del. Can I send it to you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And then
I just don't want to be wrong about how to say his last name.
Yes. Who was his boss that called you that said, don't call them anymore?
You know what? I asked him repeatedly and he would not give me his name. And actually my neighbors were all down. So there was probably a handful of people here when the conversation went on.
Yes.
And was completely rude. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess somebody didn't want things looked into. And this was in Beaver County as well?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. That's a suburb of Pittsburgh?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So how far?
Yeah, pretty much everything goes to Pittsburgh. About 45 minutes is Pittsburgh to Beaver County.
Okay. All right. So you're in that area. They didn't do anything about it. And then
Nope.
What happened after that?
well, I mean, I guess going through the custody case and stuff, we ended up, I filed a motion. Well, I told you we appealed that. My attorney at that time was Anastasia Williams. And I mean, and I really liked her. She was doing her job. She actually walked out from the back room multiple times, stating to me and my mom, like, she sees what they're doing to us. Like, this is unbelievable. And I'm thinking, okay, well, do something to help us. If you see what they're doing, do something. So we filed that appeal, went through it. She ended up on my day of my oral brief. She walked out of her firm and did not even show up for my oral brief. So again, now I'm pro se because I don't have an attorney, don't know what to do. And again, this is still when there's a whole bunch of abuse going on with my children. So they told me, again, I went in for a protection order. They told me it didn't sound like I needed a protection order. It sounded like I needed to modify my order. So I did all that through Beaver County, modified it. And I, even stated, like, listen, all my evidence has not been presented in this first trial. We tried to appeal. I stated my attorney walked out of our firm, didn't do any of this. Like, there's serious problems going on here. And I believe it was Judge Ross that, granted it for me to do it. But then it was Judge Knafel. He's the senior judge of Beaver County. He's the one that ended up taking over my case. And when he took it over, honestly, he's just as bad as my ex when it comes to verbal abuse.
Yeah.
Verbal abuse majorly in this courtroom.
So
To where I am scared to death to even walk into this courtroom because of what they've put me through.
yes, we'll get into that. I just got to take a short break, play an ad for a sponsor, but we'll be right back.
Perio, co-founder of Mark37.com. I spent my career in Silicon Valley working for high-tech infrastructure companies, and I've witnessed firsthand the surveillance apparatus they've built. Most of you already know we're in a digital war right now, but are you really aware that we're trying to fight this war with the weapons and tools of the enemy? That Android or iPhone in your pocket, that MacBook or Windows laptop, it's a tracking device feeding everything you say and do to companies that want you under their control or eliminated entirely. Every text, call, location, even how long you pause on a post, they track it all and use complex algorithms to then use this data to manipulate your behavior. If you knew someone hacked your devices and was selling your data without your consent, you'd be furious and terrified. So why are you okay with these companies doing this to you right now? Here's what they don't want you to know. There is another way. At Mark37.com, we offer phones, laptops, tablets, and even basic flip phones, all running systems big tech can't access unless you explicitly give them access. And what's even better is you also don't need to sacrifice productivity. I'm one of thousands of geeks mobilized across this country, building tools and providing education and support to help you live anonymously online before they enforce digital ID. Go to mark37.com. Sign up for a free 30-minute digital privacy consultation. Join hundreds of thousands who have decided to stop feeding their data to companies actively working to enslave us. Take back your communications. Take back your data. And may God bless you on your journey.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to go to mark37.com to get one of the phones, you can use the promo code Paris. You'll get a 5% discount. I got one of the phones, started to transition. Obviously, with the stuff that I do, I can't go all the way with on my computers and so forth. But for the phones, this is good. Get secure communication because the government's stealing your information. They're using the tech companies to do it without warrant and so forth. So protect it. If you want to support a good cause, you can go to the links that you see down there. There's a donor box, there's a gift send go. You can go to the website, thecarisproject.com. You'll see the stuff that we're working on. If you want to support that, go right ahead. And also, if you're watching on Rumble, Facebook, or YouTube or so forth, you'll see links in the description. There's different ways that you can support a good cause. We have merchandise like coffee cups, t-shirts, hoodies, that kind of stuff. So support it if you like the content and like, share, and subscribe it, especially with these conversations about the theft of the children. Yeah. So back to this. You were talking about what was going on and the abuse with the judge. Can you kind of tell us some of the
Yes.
things that he did?
Like I said, when Judge Knafel was assigned to my case, again, I filed for a modification. Because again, the whole decisions that were made on the first one, again, 16 factors. I mean, that should be what you should have went off of. So again, like I told you earlier, that he stated, he's a senior judge and there's reasons why he takes the case. And, we've been in front of every other judge, which again, those are false statements because I have not been in front of every judge. My ex and his other children's mother have, not me. I was not able to speak up and clarify or, correct him on any of that. Instead, I felt like I was looked at different, treated different because, I don't know if he didn't know the whole story or what was going on. But again, he walked in, I'm sorry, but he walked in biased. 100%. It wasn't about the kids. It was more or less, he's like, you guys care more about fighting each other or this and that. And here I am, I'm trying to protect my kids.
Well,
Like, and
what did he do to you that made you
he
not want to
threatened to
go to
hold a gun to my head.
the judge?
The judge, I actually have transcripts. Yes. The second time that he found me in contempt, he threatened to hold a gun to my head and throw me in jail. And that is in transcripts. And then again, like I explained earlier about my ex choking my son. So again, I withheld my children. It's my right to withhold my children if I feel there's abuse going on. So that's when I found Francesca Amato. And honest God bless her, because if it wasn't for her and her walking to court with me that day and not walking to court with me, she was virtual. They were ready to throw me in handcuffs. I mean, there was probably 20 people outside the waiting room, like they were ready to have a big party that I was going to jail.
So they were going to throw you in
Yes.
jail because they failed to protect you, failed to protect your children, and then they created the circumstance where you had to sit down and say, no, I'm not going to let you see the kids. And they're going to like, well, you don't have any reason to, so we're going to throw you in jail.
Right. Yep. And I mean, these judges have made comments like, oh, I fight with my children. Everybody has, like, listen, if then maybe you should be on the bench. Like, if you're abusive and you're that stuff too, then maybe you shouldn't be on the bench because you don't know everybody's history, everybody's story. And I mean, it's just like the comments that they make, or, like his daughter, like he didn't see his daughter for, gosh, 2, almost 3 years and just started seeing her again.
Fighting with your children is one thing. Abusing them is a completely
Abuse is
different
different.
story, right? Like, and I mean, do I argue with my oldest daughter? Yes. Is there abuse? No.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, and so forth. And like, I mean, there was never any established anything with my youngest daughter, but I haven't been able to see her for 6 years, right? Like, I mean, and there was, I mean, this is what you're seeing happening. You're seeing when
100. Yep.
the parents that should be not near the children, who are harming the children, are being the ones that are given the children or given access to the children. The ones who are trying to protect the children and doing what's right are the ones being punished. This is a problem, and this is like
100%.
very, very clear
100%.
in the case. And then the fact of the matter is that they're doing something, and there's probably, like, if he's doing insurance fraud, and then the attorney general said don't call back, they're probably doing a lot of fraud in that county, and the government's involved, because you can't keep doing those things and getting away with all of that stuff without having certain type of connections. And if they're all in bed together in a criminal organization, it makes more sense where they're going to protect him, right? Because if he goes down, he's going to start, his mouth will get loose, and then there's going to be problems, right?
Yep. Yeah, and he's actually, I mean, he's admitted to me before he likes going to jail because he meets so many people. I'm like, this is crazy.
But he doesn't stay in jail because they keep.
Nope, never does.
Right?
Nope. Like I said, he paid in the 2 years that we went through the very hard time. He paid $40,000 in bail bonds, and still Beaver County let him have my children.
I mean, so what is it that they have against you? Is it because you what it that
You know what? I don't even have a speeding ticket. Like I told you, the first time I've ever stepped foot in that courthouse was to get a protection order. Like, never been in trouble in my life, nothing.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I mean, obviously, if they're doing something criminal, you did something to make them uncomfortable. Is what I'm saying. Is that usually they do they
The
you
only thing that I could honestly think of is me calling people out. Because I grew up that way, you know, right from wrong. There's always right from wrong, because this goes back to, you know, my family, my personal family. Now, again, my mom is great. She's been the backbone through all this with my children. Now, you know, my dad's side family, and I actually have a brother. They have not stepped up. They don't even care about my children. They don't care about nothing that goes on.
well
You
there
know, it's sick.
well there's also this whole stigma that if something goes wrong with the children, automatically people's default response is, "What did you do? You must have done
Yes.
something wrong." And this
Yes.
is where people have to stop with that idea, right? Like or people are like, "Oh, well, the judge said this." I'm like, well, I don't care what the judge says. I care what did the judge say based on the evidence that was in front of him and what took
Right.
place, right? Because, you know, if you go just based on what the judge says, you're acting like it's like the word of God, it's infallible, but judges do wrong, and people don't understand this, and they don't want to admit this, but then that's what needs to be done, because at this point in time, I don't trust anything that the judge says until I can verify it
Oh,
as
100.
true for myself.
100%. You know, this just made me think of a thing. Like, you know, my oldest child talked to the judge twice. I actually have the transcripts from the first one. And that was the first contempt too. They came out when they found me contempt. They said, my son said he's not scared to go to his dad's or scared to be over there. Well, if you read the transcripts, he doesn't state it. He nods his head affirmly that yes, he is scared of his dad, and yes, he's scared to go over there. So they forced him to go back over there and found me in contempt.
Oh, sorry, I muted myself. So they had to, in order to like maintain this situation, they had to create it so that what you're saying isn't true by forcing
Yeah.
an outcome. And this happens all the time. I see it over and over again. And I mean, they're throwing parents in jail who are trying to protect their children. They're destroying them. They're wiping them out financially. And this is criminal activity. Like when you're using a court, and I tell anybody, go read Title 18 when it comes to human trafficking. Like improper use of the courts is not permitted. It is not. And they know that that happens, and it's written in for that specific reason, especially in immigration cases. They threaten to take you to court and all that kind of stuff. Or if you don't do this to me or that to me, we'll get you deported and stuff like that. Or even with people dragging them through certain situations and putting them in bad spots and be like, well, if you do this for us, then this will all go away. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah, actually, on the last, well, going back to like the custody real quick with that senior judge, you know, going through a trial and everything. Obviously, he was so against me. I ended up filing a federal lawsuit, started at pro se, against this judge, Beaver County CYS workers. Um, Still going through, you know, our last custody trial through Beaver County. I ended up finding an attorney down in New Jersey who flew in to help me. We asked this judge to recuse himself from the bench, which is the senior judge. He laughed about it, wouldn't refuse himself from the bench. Instead, he actually the end of the decision, he actually ended up with a shared parenting plan. So it actually made it even 10 times worse than from the first order. And then we asked him to, you know, release jurisdiction because, again, I've been trying to. We've lived in Ohio for 5 years. My kids go to school in Ohio. You know, their doctor's done it. I mean, everything is in Ohio, their school. Like, there's no reason for us to even be in PA. I have the transcripts for there. Yeah, he released jurisdiction. And this was in 2023. released jurisdiction and kind of laughed about it. I mean, laughed that I had a federal suit against them and even stated, well, maybe new eyes need this case. So going to Ohio, we filed for over here in Ohio. The judge over here in Ohio stated he would not accept the case or hear it for 2 years after this court order was just made, since it was such a new court order. And I'm like, oh my God, like how, here we go again. So for 2 years, again in lingo,
What?
documenting everything, doing everything, we
Wait.
finally got the Ohio court to accept jurisdiction. I see you have a question.
So you wouldn't look at which case unless 2 years went by. What for which was this a
my custody trial
for
my kids.
And this was in Ohio that they did this?
Yes.
So they said they wouldn't
Yeah.
look at, unless 2 years after the decision, they wouldn't do this.
Yes, they wouldn't re-look at the custody. Yeah. Yeah. So we finally just got it, I believe it was the end of 2025, got them to accept jurisdiction. So they assigned a guardian ad litem. And, and I have been so against, because I've dealt with so many CYS workers, I've dealt with so many other people, and my children are getting to the point where it's hard for them to talk to people because these people screw them so bad. They tell them the truth and then it turns around, they make them lie to favor the father. Like, there's so many, I could prove it with so many reports of false accusations. And not only that, if they would just talk to my children or get to know my children, you would know the truth. But, so they accepted jurisdiction over here in Ohio, assigned the guardian ad litem. I was, again, iffy about that. You know what? I must say, and I give our guardian ad litem up here in Ohio, she did an amazing job. It wasn't just I didn't want hearsay. What I did is I typed everything. I typed out all my concerns. So there was no conflict, no nothing. I handed her all the paperwork. So she knew all my concerns of my youngest child having asthma, not getting his medication, the abuse still going on, school, not taking my child to speech therapy. This guardian ad litem she did, she reached out to the school, she reached out to the neighbors, she reached out to the doctors. She did a very intense report. So again, I paid for the guardian, which the Ohio courts made me pay for. We went through pretrial. So going through pretrial, we were not allowed in the back room. It was just the attorneys with the judge. And from my understanding, my attorney told me that the judge looked at John's attorney and said, the case doesn't look good for him at all, which we knew that. So again, we continued our thing. He set a date for the trial, which was June 22nd. We go there for June 22nd. The guardian again continued her report. She had another report. I'm not sure if I can really say everything that she says in it, but pretty much she's suggesting there's no overnights. So the day of the trial, the judge decides he does not want to take the case and he is sending it back to Beaver County. After I've already been financially put into this report.
I think that they need to have some serious changes to what's happening.
Yes.
Here. And if
yes.
they don't, the all of the countries that are like this, they're going to get destroyed. And the reason being is because when you destroy the families, you're destroying the building block of the nation. And this started when they started to allow women to just go free reign to destroy men. You get the most psychotic women that would go ahead and destroy their exes in the family courts that were not doing anything wrong just because they wanted. This is how this started. Then he began to destroy the men.
Mm-hmm.
When they began to destroy the men, then there were more, when those women that were psychotic were raising those kids, what kind of children do you think they were going to raise? And if they have boys, what's going to happen to those boys? Then those boys are going to go out and they're going to be abusive. The girls are going to go out and be abusive. And you're going to see this cycle being perpetuated while you're seeing so much abuses going on because of what they did there. Because you're seeing, this crazy train needs to stop. And the courts
I 100% agree with you on that. I was going to say, 100% agree with you on that because I honestly feel the same way just from personal experience being inside of the court and seeing things. I feel they're honestly raising criminals.
Yes, they are.
When it comes to our children. Because, I mean, the talks, my kids being in therapy, doing all this stuff, knowing right from wrong. Well, how do you teach a child right from wrong when, the cops, the judges, the lawyers, the people that are supposed to protect an abuser, not an abuser, a victim from the abuser are allowing it to be okay? Like, just like now, the abuse that my children have gone through, they think it's okay to hit, smack, choke because nobody's got in trouble for it. They think it's okay to hurt women, steal things, And then I'm sitting here trying to teach them right from wrong because there's nobody else that is.
Yeah.
Or like my oldest son, like, his biggest problem is he has talked to so many people and told the truth, told his story, and they've let him down so bad that he has no trust in so many people.
You get to see your kids still now or no?
Yes, I do. Well, summertime, like my ex's primary parent. So I actually only get to see them. They come home on Tuesday evenings. I get them Wednesday to Thursday evenings, and I only have them every other weekend.
And so what was their justification for doing this?
There was no justification. There was no nothing. The more evidence that I presented into court, the more time they gave my ex. And it wasn't just hearsay. These were doctor's reports, school reports, missed appointments. Again, I had tons of recordings, which I was never allowed to present any of the recordings. The text messages, I have so many of that. I have a recording of my ex, his two older boys, his sister, and the mother, all of them trying to jump me. And I have it all recorded.
Wow. And this took place primarily in Pennsylvania.
This all happened in Beaver County. Yep. Beaver County, PA.
And
Yeah, the
so
only thing I'm dealing with right now is again the custody. We're trying to get it still accepted into Ohio, which we did file reconsideration. I'm still waiting to hear on that. The only thing that bothers me is in my order where he's sending it back to Beaver County. He states in there that in the last 3 years, they have tried contacting Beaver County multiple times because I guess that's how it happens when jurisdictions change. Judges usually talk to each other. I guess that Beaver County has been non-responsive to anything from Ohio.
So you ended up leaving Beaver County because of all of this stuff?
Yes, pretty much. When my ex stole my horses and I knew I wasn't safe to go to Chippewa by myself, and my mom had a place down in Hookstown, we decided like, let's look. So we found actually a farm up in Ohio to be together. Actually has 2 homes on it. So that was our decision to do that. And Beaver County forced me to sign a paper to keep my case in Beaver County during the first custody trial.
Really?
That was the only way that they were going to let me go to Ohio, which again, the houses were already sold. The barn was already sold in PA. We already had signed papers in Ohio. Yeah.
Who had custody at this time when they made you sign those papers?
I did. My ex, well, he had stole my kids for, it was almost a week long. And I actually had to file to get them back is how it started.
He took the kids and wouldn't bring them back.
Correct. And they were, I want to say my youngest one was about 1.5 years old. So my oldest would be about 3 to 4 years old.
So you filed in court to get them back.
Correct.
And then when you were leaving, they said they made you sign something to force you to keep it there.
Into Beaver County, yes. And again, at that time, never been through trouble, none of that. So of course, I'm taking all my attorney's word. You don't know the law. You don't know none of that's going on. You expect these people to help you. You expect them to help your children.
Well, the reason why they wanted to do that, because it becomes more difficult when you then go to another jurisdiction. Not saying that they can't do the same fraud, but it becomes more problematic because when you're across into another state, and then they have to bring all of this stuff into the other state, then the other judge, like, if they don't get it to their people and somebody sees this through, like, absolutely not, they're gonna do something different, right? Because when you look at
Mhm.
all of the failed things that went on there, where you're looking at, um, they're not dealing with the court cases, they're not dealing with, like, the arsons, the forged documents, they're not dealing with the protection orders, and you go get a protection order in Ohio for this, then they're going to have to deal with that protection order before they can deal with any of that stuff, and it puts them in a harder position. So keeping you in that jurisdiction made it easier for them to carry out their nonsense. Really, all it was.
Oh, 100%. Because there was a time like actually our pickup and drop off is at St. Clair Township Police Department in Calcutta, Ohio. And that reason because my ex actually came to our new property here. My neighbors were down. He actually heard my neighbor's husband on the phone in the background, got mad, came flying down here. He actually picked up my oldest son, threw him in the truck, and almost ran over me and my youngest son. My neighbors were witness, went down and made police reports through all this stuff. The only thing that they did was made our pickup and drop off at a police station. There was no consequences for any actions that happened.
Yeah, this is something that, I mean, there needs to be bigger changes to this, because if you allow people to do this without consequence, you're going to promote this type of behavior. If you
Yes.
They have to have something to curb this, right? Because if I didn't get consequences in my life, I wouldn't learn the lessons that I did, right? It's the
Right,
consequences that you
100%.
that you get from it, whether it be good or bad, that helps you to determine what you're going to do. Because if you have no consequence, no negative consequences for wrong behavior, what's going to curb the wrong behavior? If you're being rewarded for it, you're going to do it. The more that you reward somebody for doing it, it makes it easier. Because what you're seeing now
Right.
is people who are making the right decisions are being punished, and then the wrong decisions are being rewarded. And the we have to keep in mind the way a system is working and the way things are set up. A lot of the people that you see in positions that can do something are not there to do things. They won't. And in fact, the people who are actually trying to do things and bringing solutions to fix problems, are the ones that are getting attacked the most. This happens time and
Yeah.
time again. And I've watched this happen. I see it happening all over the place. I see it with myself and everything else like that. When anybody wants to do something to make changes, they don't want that. They want that well-oiled machine to continue. And I'm sorry, but you can't steal kids without consequence.
Yes. Yes. And that's honestly what I felt like, because this should have been a cut dry from the beginning going into court. Like, he shouldn't have had my kids, for as much, criminal charges that were filed against them. I mean, again, he had beat me up. He has threw my mom down. Like, there's tons of evidence. And all they did was drag it on and completely, I mean, I guarantee between me and my mom and everything, I mean, there's probably $150,000 in attorney fees.
Yeah, yes, and that this is how they soak you, right? This is a
Mhm.
racket, and I'm going to sit down. Like, I've dealt with a lot of victims, survivors, traumatized people, and so forth. It's not difficult to tell when somebody comes to talk to you whether or not they're being abused. It's also not difficult to determine whether or not someone's the primary aggressor, because in when you have, like, these types of relationships, they come into a dynamic of, they both will become aggressive, but are victim, but there's someone who's the primary one that is the driving factor, because you'll start to react to negative behavior in negative ways as well. And this is why people need to, like, kind of sort themselves out after going into these types of situations, and then people will be ashamed of the things that happen. But a lot of the times it's a reaction type of being in that unhealthy dynamic. But it's not that hard to figure out who is the one who is behind being driving this abuse, right?
Mhm.
And so forth. So when you have these people in law enforcement that don't do anything, I have to sit down and I say, why? Because I'm not a trained law enforcement person, but I can understand when someone's telling the truth. I can also understand when other things are happening, right? When somebody's lying or where they're leaving out information. Because talk to one woman and she was abused. There's no doubt about it, but she left out a lot of key details where she instigated a large portion of this and was doing things in a very wrong manner. Now, that changes things, right? Because you can sit down and say, oh, he punched me in the face. But it's like, did you mention that you punched him in the face 200 times before that? Right? Like, but you can generally tell those people based on the way that they do things. And then if someone's completely lying, you can tell that as well, how they relate information. People who are telling the truth related in certain manner. And judges and police officers, they know this because they see this all of the time. And you cannot sit down and say that you don't know so much or have any ideas when you're doing this. You're outright lying. When I talk to judges and I've been in the courts with them, when I sit down and I talk to them, I can tell they're lying and I can hear the fear in their voice because they know what they're doing is wrong. And I can smell it a mile away.
Right. Well, that's what I was so like, going back to which really bothers me, and this was one factor that really bothers me because made the decision where I feel like the senior judge really got at me was in transcripts. I have my ex's attorney stating, the first time I was found in contempt, though I realized that the judge was in the back room on the phone with the CYS worker and she stated everything was going to be unfounded. And I'm like, wait a minute. So then here I am. I went back to like the date of the first contempt I was found in. And I'm like, how could she even state that? The forensic and medical interview weren't even done. Like these are the things that, again, if you want to attack me, but what about who's there to protect my children?
So yes, these guys, they do things out of control. Let's actually get into that. How did CYS get involved with your children? Where did that come from? Having the custody issue.
Well, there's been multiple reports for abuse. Obviously my mom's a nurse, so she has to report things. I've called things in. The school's called things in. My youngest has asthma real bad. He was actually I believe it was 2 years ago in Akron Children's Hospital for a week for failure of my ex not providing his medication on his time. They've actually called CYS. The school's called CYS on them.
So they didn't.
I mean, I would say about 50 of it, they actually did anything with it. But the reports,
they didn't give
the reports that I read are hearsay.
They didn't give the medication for what? What medication was withheld?
Asthma. My youngest son, he has a asthma or an inhaler he has to take every day. He also takes a pill every night, and then he also has a rescue inhaler. So he's on multiple medication for his asthma.
So they won't deal with.
And my ex and his family believe he doesn't have asthma and it's just allergies.
Okay. And so.
Yeah, so they don't. And again, my kids come home and they'll straight up say, they don't get their medication there. Does not get it.
And then what happened?
They said that they did a report. Instead of taking my word where I take pictures of, anybody that has inhalers know their numbers, count down. When I'd send them over there, I'd take pictures. So I knew, exactly. That's how I was really proven in the beginning that he was not getting his medication. The CYS reports state that John took a piece of paper and that's his log of writing it down instead of looking at my proof, proving that his is false. Pretty much nothing came about any of the CYS work, any of the cases. But instead, they wanted to more or less attack me as.
But where are the kids?
As I was the liar.
Where are the kids going to school?
Southern Local.
Where is that?
Up here in Columbiana County, Ohio.
Okay, so the kids are going to school in Ohio. Is your ex in Ohio now, or is he still in Pennsylvania?
He lives at his mother's house in PA. He does have property in Ohio, but he technically, since the house burnt down, does not have a house.
But the kids are going to school in Ohio right now?
Correct.
Okay, so
Yes.
but he's still the primary parent. So they go back to him
Well, he's primary parent in the summertime. So when all this went about, so I'm primary parent for 9 months of the year. He's only primary parent for the summertime. So he doesn't have any pretty much responsibility at all.
Okay, so when they were going to school and he was with them. He wasn't giving the medication, and the school made complaints to the CYS about
Yes.
that. Was that in Ohio or
Yes.
that was in Ohio?
In Ohio. Yep.
And then
Yep.
when the Ohio CYS did nothing.
They transferred most of it over to Beaver County because they state he lives in Beaver County, so that's their jurisdiction. Everything has happened over in Beaver County and PA, so it's the Beaver County CYS's jurisdiction, not Ohio's.
Okay, so then Beaver County just comes back and says everything is unfounded.
Yep. And I want to say at a time there was, I want to say 4 to 5 cases open at a time against him and his family.
Okay. That's that explains a lot. They're just protecting themselves. And at the end of the day, I would suspect that there's a lot more going on. Because when you have children in situations like this, when you break apart families and so forth, you're going to end up having children going through the system. When children go through the system, they end up in worse places in life, right? Because they'll end up in places
Mm-hmm.
like jail, they'll end up in places like trafficking and all these different kinds of things, or they're going to end up having more problems in life where they're going to have children that are going to have more problems, because there's a strong correlation of being in the system and then having your children being in the system, right? And so forth, because
Right.
of the damage that it does. And the more people they get through this, they're going to keep their numbers up by doing as much damage as they possibly can. And protecting abusive parents is going to help keep the gears turning in their machine.
Mm-hmm.
This is how they justify having expenses, by making sure that children don't get the help that they actually need. And then they're going to be like, oh, well, you see, we're here helping the families. But it's like, yeah, you're helping create the problem. And then you're going to say you're part of the solution, which is a terrible solution anyway.
Oh, 100% on that factor, because like I had a child advocate for my children, which I have a court order from Beaver County stating my children are not allowed to even talk to her anymore. There's no communication allowed on that aspect. And when it comes back to like Francesca, um, we found out that Beaver County, PA did not even have an ADA coordinator. Now they state they have one now, but if you have a job or a job title, should you not know your job title, or anything? So if it's about the ADA, Americans with Disabilities, should you not know the laws about it? The Beaver County had no clue. Again, like when Francesca went in there to meet with me the first day when they were going to throw me in jail, she threw actually 7 laws out at the judge. They went in the back room. He came out, continued the hearing. And it's in transcripts that him nor either attorneys knew any of the 7 laws that she threw at them.
Wow.
And actually, I want to say it was 11 times. And from that day on, that was the only time that, she was actually allowed to be virtual on there that day. And then 11 times after that, I had 11 different hearings and motions go into that courthouse. And I was denied my ADA advocate with me every single time.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're just trying to isolate people and make things harder and get more friction. This is really the main reason why we ended up going directly to the elected officials, like with what my daughter was talking about at the beginning with the petitions, because they're not, the court can't, they don't have the authority to change themselves. They don't. And on the local areas, they're just violating people's constitutional rights. This is exactly why we need to use things like Article 4, Section 4. Like during the civil rights movement, when the states were like, no, we're going to keep the segregation because we can, they sent to the National Guard and said, no, you're not. right? And when it comes down to state, and judges are part of the state government, when it comes down to the
Hmm.
state and they're not protecting people's rights and they're violating people's rights, this is exactly the type of thing that they're supposed to deal with. And I don't care about people saying, "Oh, well, we're not the decision." I don't care about the decision. It's the process that they're using to make those decisions that's the problem. Because if your process is wrong, you're going to come to wrong conclusion. And there's a right to due
Yes,
process.
100%.
You have the Fifth and the 14th Amendment, right? And then they have the supremacy clause binding on every judge. I don't care what you sit down and say, but you're a judge in a state. The U.S. Constitution is binding on you, federal law and treaties. So when you're sitting down and doing all of this nonsense, you're violating the law, and the federal government has an obligation to step in. I don't care what anybody says,
Hmm.
because anybody with eyes can read the Constitution, see what's going on, knowing that people are getting their rights stripped and children effectively have no rights. This is why they're treating them this way. Then the government has to step in, because there is no Republican form of government.
Was
If you steal people's kids, like, that's slavery.
Yeah. And see, that's where I kind of feel at right now, is because, like, Ohio's trying to send me back into Beaver County. How do you send me back into a county where, first off, you knew I had a federal lawsuit against the county, CYS, and all them? Um, Not only that, how scared I am. Not only that, this judge, the senior judge, is absolutely crazy, out of his mind. 70, I want to say he's probably about 75 right now. Um, he straight up said it. It's in transcript. He's the senior judge, and I can take it to whoever I want to take it to, do whatever I want to do to him, and ain't nobody gonna ever touch him. I mean, I have the transcript stating this.
This is why they need the people to get up and deal with this, because if they don't, it's not going to happen. And the people that are in power, they need a lot of pressure to deal with this, because what's the alternative? To sit down and let them continue this? I'm
Mhm.
sorry, that's not gonna
And
that's not gonna happen.
And what has to really bother me too is also, like, going through the federal courts, which, I mean, I don't want to get really into all that stuff with the federal cases. But, I had attorneys, judges state to me that, that was just, I want to say, like, a slang talk, the judge stating it. Well, you know what? What if I walked into that courtroom and stated, "You allowed my abuser to take my children. The next time you do it, I'm going to hold a gun to your head, because you're making all these false, you're going against the law, you're breaking the law." You know what? I guarantee I'd walk out in handcuffs. I guarantee it.
Of course you would.
But why is it okay for these judges, these people that do it?
Well, because they're protecting themselves, and they're protecting their operation. This is all there is to it. Because you can't say those things to people and get away with it. But when you have, um, basically you're operating like a little cartel, because every community that's doing this is operating like a cartel. This is how criminal organizations operate. And when I sit down and tell people, I said, when I look at the actions of things, the only logical conclusion that I come to is that organized crime is operating within the government, because that's exactly
Yes.
what this looks like. And other people are seeing it, but now it is, what is it to do about it? Because people can go out and talk about it, but not as many people are going to actually get down and do what's necessary to get things done. Really.
Hmm.
And that's I mean, this is one of the biggest issues in there, and one of the biggest cash cows. You want to watch how much government money disappears? Follow this type of stuff. Money
Yep.
laundering,
Yep.
stealing your tax dollars.
100%.
Because
100%.
how many, like,
People don't even realize, and I honestly, before me going through all this court stuff, I didn't realize, every child that is taking from a parent, do you realize the courts get a kickback, money profit?
yes, and for
Like,
child support,
people don't realize this.
yes. And then they get it, the child protective services, they get incentives for doing this. They
Hmm.
justify their budgets by the number of kids that they take and place in care, and then they have companies that they're contracted out to deal with these things, that they make money. Like, for example, like, look at this: the Guardian ad litem. You said you had to pay for it, but the court ordered it. They ordered you to pay
Right.
for something. Why is it that you have to pay for this? What? Why did they even need Guardian ad litems in the first place? Why?
Right.
I
That's
mean,
that's what I mean. Like if they would just let me present the evidence I had from day one, it would have all been over. But I mean, I was silenced. I wasn't allowed to present the recordings, the videos, the text messages. I mean, it could have been done from the first day.
but they didn't
But
want to.
instead, they just drug me on. And I mean, I've went through multiple attorneys. Again, I told you the money that's been spent.
They don't. They don't want anything to be done. They don't. I'll tell you that right now. That's why they're doing it. And people have to
Mhm.
face the facts. The government is running a criminal operation. I'm not saying the entire government is like this, but there's enough people in the government that are doing it, and they're blocking the
Mhm.
door and protecting the racket. And even people within the government that want to do something, they're going to get shut down because somebody
Yep.
higher up is going to be like, "Yeah, you're going to keep your nose out of that, or we're going to move you out, or whatever the case may be." And this is what's happening now. And the more that we're going into recession, the worse this is going to become because people are going to be more dependent on their money, right? Because
Right.
jobs are scarce and so forth, and things aren't the way that they are. So we need to start making something. We need to start doing something different. So just, I know we're getting close to the time here, but where are you at right now? What's happening with your situation now?
Right now, I'm actually, like I said, we're June 22nd. We were supposed to have our trial, which, I finally thought, getting there, the guardian was requesting no more overnights at his house. That's what my kids' major thing is because they don't like to sleep there. They can't sleep there. I thought that, finally we were getting somewhere. And then we went to the day of the trial, and the judge decided he didn't want to take the case and was sending it back to Beaver County. So my attorney over here in Ohio, um, actually his name's, and I think he's great. So if people do need to use him, attorney Frank Williams from Amada Law. I mean, he has been over backwards for me in so many ways. Even when we weren't able to get into court, he was there for me. He's filing a reconsideration for it, a motion. So as of right now, I'm waiting to hear on that motion. Although I have about a week and a half left before I can file them, because I'm going to appeal it no matter what. So I'm still waiting on that motion to be heard because, I mean, again, there is no way. And why would I have to be sent back to Beaver County? Where I live now, it takes me an hour to get to this courthouse.
It
How,
makes
I mean,
it doesn't make sense, but
yeah,
it's but even if it was 5 minutes away, it doesn't matter. The whole point is that what was done over there and the severe
right,
amount of conflicts of interest. And what we're seeing here is, um, that they're using procedure and policy and whatever else like that, and saying that they're having strict adherence to the law to ignore other considerations that have big issues. For example, the risk to you and your children by pushing you back into that situation, the potential for the constitutional violations, and the high degree of retaliation that would be more than likely to take place. Because if you sue somebody, they're more than likely going to retaliate against you if you are put back under their authority. That's common sense. You don't do that,
right.
but here they are. They're doing it to you.
Oh, 100%.
So, what court in it is trying to the court in Ohio, is the state court, is trying to refer you back to Beaver County.
Yes, yes. Columbiana County Court over here in Ohio is trying to throw me back into Beaver County, PA.
Yeah, you should. This is why you need to go. Like, you need to go to the federal court there and throw some writs of mandamus on them, so that they could go ahead and do what. because they need to be restrained from a federal level and
Yes.
explain why.
Well, and that's again, if the judge would have listened to the case, and I mean, and that's what gets me is, they're the ones that signed the guardian. They're the ones, we went through pretrial. You made me go through all this stuff to what? Throw me back into Beaver County when it should have been, cut dry from the beginning of it
Yeah,
all.
yeah, it really needs to. And yeah, I mean, this, we'll talk after this is done, but I mean, this needs to get dealt with. This kind of stuff should not happen, and they should not be putting you back into a situation where there's so many conflicts and so many issues that were there, right? Because there's no hope for you to have a fair process, and they know that, right?
Right, correct.
So before we go,
Sorry,
what?
I just got up for a second.
No worries. What do you want to say to people? Like, what? How can they help reach you? How can they help?
Honestly, standing up. I mean, there needs to be a lot more people that need to stand up for children, or abuse that goes on. Be a backbone. Don't take everybody's word of, because I mean, I've had so many people say, oh, well, just call the cops. The cops will do something, because I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times my ex has took off with my kids, and I'm talking like out of state, Missouri, Alabama, like everywhere, and a week, and I can't even talk to them. Don't know where they are. Don't know if they're alive. And people are like, just call the cops. Just call the cops. Do you realize that unless you're in the situation, you don't know? But there is zero help when it comes to it. And I mean, I don't know how to fix it or how to do it besides getting everybody needs to speak up or stand up. I hear so many people, and and even friends or old friends I had that say they care about children. How do you care about children when you're sitting there watching a child being abused? Whether
Yeah.
my child or not, like I would always protect the child.
Well, they say they care, but they feel bad, but they don't go any further than that. And that's the problem.
100%. 100%.
And I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna say this like it is. I put a lot of the responsibility on men, and the reason being is men are the ones who are there to protect society. And without men protecting
Hmm.
society, it breaks down very fast. This is why they went after men first to destroy them. But at the end of the day,
Hmm.
you can't expect the women to do the work of the men. We're just designed differently. We have things that we are both essential to society, but they're different. And when it comes down to dealing with this kind of
Right.
stuff, this is men, because you get 100 angry men and 100 angry women showing up somewhere, and it's fundamentally very different with between the women and the men. They look at the women as a minor inconvenience, but when the men come in, they're like, well, if we don't deal with this, eventually someone's going to get hurt badly, because there's always the threat of deadly force whenever men are interacting with other men. Because if two men are there and somebody's a pedophile, somebody's going to die, right? Like that's just the way it is. Where you may not have
Yeah.
the
Yep.
same situation where it's a man and a woman. They're not. There's obviously the disadvantage. So we need to get back to dealing with things the right way. And men, you need to find
100. Yeah.
your spine and your courage. And like you're like, oh well, if I do this, I might go to prison. Well, you know what? I got strapped to a bed. I got drugged. I spent 4.5 months in an immigration detention trying to help you. So I don't care. I don't want to hear what you have to say, because I'm taking it 6 ways from Sunday. And there's guys that are like half my age that should be out doing stuff, and you shouldn't be letting somebody like me outwork you. It's a shame, right?
Yes. Yep.
So we need to get this done. I'm going to close here with a prayer, because we need some of that. And I mean, people get up and do
Thank
something.
you. Amazing.
All right. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, your grace, your mercy, and we thank you for all the things that you have done for us this day. And Lord, I put the situation with Jenna and her children before you, and I ask of you this day to work according to your will and help to protect the children. And Father, I ask of you to watch over all the other parents who are suffering in this situation, who are trying to do what's right for their children, and give them the strength to endure and to continue on. And help the men that we would turn back to God, and that we would find our courage and ask for strength and guidance, and that we would submit ourselves to you and repent of our evil, and that we would come together with the women to rebuild our families, our churches, our community, our nation, that we can have some protection from the children from this wickedness that is running rampant in the land is my prayer. In Jesus' name.